I had waited for so long. I felt like I always knew that I was meant to be a mother. And when it finally happened, it was hard. I was struggling. And I don't think that a lot of people around me, I did not let a lot of people around me into that. My name is Taylor Case, and I'm from Prestonsburg, Kentucky. So my first year of motherhood was really just hard. And I feel like that just encompasses all that comes along with becoming a mother and a first-time mother. Like I said, I had always known that I was meant to be a mother. Like I had always, even in childhood, I was like always the mother hen type of kid. I just wanted to take care of everybody. I loved babies. And so all throughout my pregnancy, I was just, I was so excited because I was like, this is it. This is what I was made to do. I'm finally stepping into this purpose. And so when it actually happened, I became a mom, and it was hard. That is when it everything started spiraling and crashing down, because I had built up this identity of being a mother in my mind, and it was like this big fairy tale awakening that was gonna happen when I finally became a mother and stepped into that role. I had built it up as my identity, and who I was meant to be a mother. And so when it was hard, when I became a mother and I was still just as broken, maybe even more so than I was before I became a mother, that I just started going into this spiral of, who am I supposed to be? I have waited so long for this. I always knew this is what I was supposed to do, who I was supposed to be, and now it's here and I'm struggling. Why am I still struggling? And so I, had a lot of people around me that had very public gifts and talents, and they were using those for the Lord. They were leading lives of ministry. And I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. It was my first child, and I was just lonely and I was sad, and I just kept thinking, I thought this was it. I thought this was gonna be my purpose. I thought this was what I was made to do. Why is the Lord not using me? And so a lot of the first year of my motherhood journey was working through those feelings of just being unnecessary, is really what I would explain it to be like. When I finally had that conversation with my husband, I remember how that conversation went. Still, it makes me cry. He had been at work, and at the time he worked at a performing arts center, and so it was a lot of weekends and evenings, and so he would be gone the entire day and still, gone on nights and weekends. And so I remember he came home one night, and my son Lincoln was probably like 6 to 7 months old at the time. And we were just standing in the bedroom, and I just started crying. And he was kind of looking at me like, what's going on here? What did I just walk into? And I remember saying to him, I had gotten so far into this pit of just wallowing in all of these lies, really, that I was unnecessary. God wouldn't, for some reason, use me in the way he was using other people around me. And I said to him, I'm not even sure if I've ever known Jesus. And at that point, he was kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? And I said, why don't I feel him the way that I hear everyone around me saying that they feel him? Why is he not there for me like he is for everybody else? And why is he choosing not to use me? Like, I'm seeing so many things being done around me. What's wrong with me? And so at that point, he was kind of like, okay, let's talk about this. It was a shock because I hadn't really told anybody that I was struggling through those things. Everybody, I feel like expects a first-time mom to have work through some kind of issues, really. Especially being a stay-at-home mom, I think everyone knew I was feeling lonely, and it's a really big life change when you become a mom and you're used to doing all of these things, and it feels like life is going on without you. But this was way more than that. It was an actual identity crisis. I had put my identity in this title of mother, and when it all started coming down around me and I still was broken, that's when I was like, what is my identity?
I'm Clayton Case. I'm from Prestonsburg, Kentucky. As Taylor's husband, when I found out that she was struggling so much during her first year as Lincoln was born, it was really difficult because I didn't know exactly how to deal with all of that. Seeing her be so happy when I'm with them and Lincoln, a new baby and all of that, contrast that with her feelings of being inadequate and not having a purpose in life and identity crisis. It was just really difficult for me to know how to help her in that moment. I think when I realized what was actually going on with my wife and what the depth of what she was feeling, there was a moment where I felt hopeless and a moment where I felt helpless, because I didn't know exactly what to say or what to do in that moment. It's easier to deal with other folks outside of our family. As a pastor, it's easy for me to deal with people in the church and their problems, but when it hits home and it's my wife, it becomes a whole new ballgame. And so that was really difficult. There was a moment of freaking out, to be honest. Like, what do I do? I try not to show my wife that, but there was a moment of exactly how do we deal with this?
And I think another thing was that we had never had like personal experience with any kind of postpartum mental illnesses like postpartum depression, anxiety. We had never, nobody talks about that a lot. And so I had always heard like the baby blues were a thing, but when I was talking to him, I'm like, this is more, this is more. And for it to have lasted, Lincoln was probably like 6 months old when I finally talked to him. And I think that was another shock, because I was expecting, that it would just resolve on its own. I'll be sad for a few weeks, we'll be good. And so when I was talking to him, 6 months into it, and I was like, this is more than just being sad. Like, I'm having an existential crisis here. Like, I need some help working through this. That was a big shock.
It was definitely a big shock. Yeah, it was definitely a big shock. And I'm a fixer, like most men probably are. And so when I couldn't just fix her, and I realized that I had to listen more. I mean, it helped our marriage to an extent as well, because it taught me how to listen to my wife more and not just try to fix the problem. Because postpartum, that's not something that you can just put your finger on and fix easily. And so, and then all of the identity issues that she was going through at the moment. I mean, there were many times where it felt hopeless to an extent, or helpless, I think is even better term for what we were going through.
I think it even surprised me, because I was like, okay, maybe this is more than I had thought that it was. Because for a long time, I had told myself, well, I don't think that I have it as bad as some other women have it. I don't, I look at everything that's good going on around me. Look at everything that I have. Look at how life is going. It's not postpartum depression. It's not that bad. It's what I kept telling myself. And so when it got to that point, I was like, okay, maybe it is that bad. Then it all just overflowed out from there.
And I think if I had any advice for someone else, for a husband or a friend that's listening to a mother that's going through postpartum depression, is don't be afraid to seek professional help as well. Yeah. And I think for us, we were looking into that. Like, it got to the point to where we felt like this could be the way that we need to go. And so we were looking into some counselors and some opportunities to seek professional help. We didn't end up going that route, but that's not something that we would have been against by no means.
Yeah. I would say that is when that moment, that conversation with Clayton is when I felt the most hopeless in that situation. I really did feel like, I really did start to question. I allowed myself to go down that road, and I started to question, have I ever even known Jesus? You know, if he had been with me, did he leave? Did I do something? Did I leave? And so at that moment, I really did feel absolutely hopeless. But also, now on the other side of all of this, looking back, that conversation is really when everything started to change. That's when I really started to realize, like, okay, maybe, I had messed up here. Maybe I have been believing lies, because up until that point, it did not feel like lies to me. It felt like, this is what's happening. This is who I am now. What's wrong? And so that's when God really started showing me, your identity is not in a title. Your identity is in what I say about you. And so I had just built it up for so long that when it didn't match up to that, it was hard. But God started to show me, your purpose is not only to be a mother. I still believe, one of my greatest purposes here is to mother my children. But I had believed that was it. That was, that's all that I was meant to do. And God showed me, through these different identities, through these different titles that you have, through these different roles that you have in your life, you have one purpose. And that one purpose is to share Jesus with everyone around you. Really, from that moment on is when I really started to step into what I felt like was a calling to mothers in that same season that I had just been in and that I had just experienced. At the time, we had a Lane of Roses Bible study in Prestonsburg, and it's just insane looking back now the way that God worked all of that together in that season of my life. But we had a group of like 4 or 5 women in our group. And as I was going through this season, I was present, but I was still in my struggle. And as I got on the other side of that, and God started showing me all of the ways that He had been working in, around me, and through me, all of the moms in our group at that time got pregnant. It was literally right around the same time. There were 3 of them that were pregnant. My husband and I had started our adoption journey, and it was just insane to see, like, you're about to see the fruits of everything that you have gone through, and the platform and the experience that I have given you, put it to use, pretty much is what was happening. And so that was really, I just had a conversation with one of the moms. We're probably like almost 2 years removed from that time now, that group. But I was just talking to a mom from that group a few weeks ago, and she was telling me the exact same thing. Like, that group of people, that group of women at that time in my life was pivotal in my relationship with Jesus. And so still now, 2 years later, I'm seeing fruits of that time. When I, was thinking for so long that I was useless, I was unnecessary, God wouldn't use me. Now I'm still seeing the fruits of that. I think that I found reasons to hope throughout this whole situation when I did start talking to Clayton and, my friends around me, and I was hearing from their perspective, the different ways that they were seeing Jesus in and through me. And so hearing other people say that when I felt so disconnected and so just lonely and lost, that was a big boost for me, because, I thought, okay, if other people are seeing this, then surely He's there. Surely this is true. And that gave me a lot of hope, coming out of that situation, because I was like, for so long I convinced myself I'm not going to be used by God. He won't use me for some reason. He can't use me. And so just the hope of other people around me saying, no, like, look at, this is what I have been seeing this whole time. That was a really big deal for me.
I can't even imagine a time where I didn't see the light inside of her. I don't even know a time when that happened. Like, she has always been a light to everyone around her, especially as she became a mother. And just seeing how she loved Lincoln, just seeing how she now loves Elena, to every other mother around her that I know of, she's a light to all of those folks. And so to me, as her husband, it was really difficult for me to understand how she didn't see that. Like, I think postpartum just really blocked all of those things, and she just could not see how beneficial that she was being to other people around her, to other mothers, to other women. And so it was many conversations of, hey, you don't understand what a light that you are to other people. You don't understand how important that your testimony is to so many other people around you. And so I think through that process, and helping her to be able to see the impact that she's making on so many other people around her, finally helped bring her to a point to where she was able to see that for herself.
And now on the other side of all of this, the hope that I really want to share with other, especially mothers that are going through that same season, is like, he brought me out of it. You know, that is the hope. Like Psalm 40 verse 2, he lifted me out of the pit of despair. He lifted me out of the mud and the mire. He set my feet on solid ground, and he steadied me as I walked along. And that truly is my testimony now. On the other side of that is the hope is that he will bring you out of it. He brought me out of it. And so that is something that I really want to share with other moms that are going through that. Is in the moment, I know what it feels like. Like, I know that it doesn't feel like you're ever going to be on the other side of it. I know that it feels like all of those things that you're telling yourself and that you're allowing yourself to believe, it feels like it's all true in the moment. But there is hope for after. You know, there is hope that you won't be there forever. There is hope that after this, it will all be used for a purpose. And that's a lot of what I'm seeing right now, is that, like, that he allowed me to go through that for this season, that I can have this impact in these conversations with these moms.
I think as well, there's always hope. There's always hope, because God loves us so much that he sent Jesus, his son, to die for us. There's always hope, and every situation that we go through is real, and our feelings are real. I would never discount our feelings, because our emotions are real. But there's always hope, because it doesn't matter what's going on in our lives. It's not the end. It's not the end. There's always hope for tomorrow. There's always hope for a brighter day. There's always hope for a new beginning in heaven one day if you're a child of God. There's always hope for whatever comes next.
And that's why you need someone that can tell you that when you're in that situation, because like you said, it feels so real that sometimes you just can't find the truth in all of that. And so that's why you need someone that can tell you that stuff. So if there was anything that I could say directly to a mom specifically that's going through this postpartum depression, the baby blues, anything like that, or just anyone in general that, you know, feels hopeless and has allowed themselves to wallow deeper in silence into this pit, where it doesn't feel like, you know, there's hope of ever getting out. It doesn't feel like God cares about you. So my advice would be to not allow that to continue in silence. That is the main thing that I tell anybody now, is that the longer that you continue to suffer in silence, the longer you continue to suffer without bringing anybody in or letting anybody know that you're even at that point, the more the enemy can continue to whisper those lies, the more that is all going to continue to fester. It's all going to continue to build until you finally let someone know, you know, this is bad. I've been struggling, and I need help. And so the enemy continues to whisper those lies. You continue to allow yourself to believe those lies. You need someone there that can tell you, no, that's a lie. That none of these things are true. I know it feels that way, but it's not. That's not the truth. Here is the truth. And so that would be my advice for somebody that feels like they're so deep into it that there's no way out.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching that video. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can continue to explore faith with Lane and Roses all week, and go ahead and check out our next video right over there.